Well, we just watched Overboard again. Oh, man. Mm-hmm.
So you didn't really care for this movie?
No, I didn't. Like, at all.
Because you like the original.
I do like the original, yeah. And I guess, I guess all I can really just say is the original made me laugh more. And this one, maybe I got a few chuckles here and there out of it, but there was not a single time in this movie that I had any kind of laugh out loud moment at all. I just mostly sat there so bored. It was like watching just somebody running the original through just a shitty carbon copy machine. I really couldn't get into this movie. This movie exhausted me. Holy shit. Did you like it?
I liked it more than the original.
Oh, did you?
A lot of the stuff that I had major problems with in the a lot of the stuff I had major problems with in the original, they at least made an effort to address in this movie. It wasn't it wasn't like transcendent or anything. I don't know that I'll ever need to watch it again, but
I don't remember when we watched the original movie the other day, and even like back in '87, if anyone was watching the original movie and leaving it going, you know what, this was alright, but wouldn't it be better if it was more like a telenovela? And Overboard's been...
Some people like telenovelas.
Overboard's been... Was this remade as a telenovela at one point? It has a couple of other remakes. And it actually wouldn't surprise me if the telenovela they were watching in this movie was Overboard.
No, because she lost the baby in the telenovela, and he was like, oh, then he'll never marry her. He's like, yes, sí, claro.
I don't remember that from the original Overboard. Man, this... Fuck.
Like, I'm having a hard time thinking of stuff to say, because, like, if we didn't have all the history of the original, it would have just been, like, a nothing movie.
No, that's totally true. Like, I wouldn't have liked this movie regardless of the original even existing, or even... Because there were some things that were really, really draining me about this movie. Like, okay, it's the same movie as the other one, but the roles are reversed in it. I guess it's in the same continuity as the first film, because the doctor mentions, like...
We only had one amnesia case back in the 80s, a beautiful young woman, and we're both like...
And then there's a part, too, where they try saying that, like, Eugenio Derbez is dead because of a shark attack, and then they call the police chief to talk about sharks.
Brody is his name, and then they pull back and he's got no arm.
I guess that's one of Chief Brody's... Is this in the... So this is also in the same continuity as Jaws.
Like, he moved from, Amityville... Not Amityville.
Amity.
Yeah.
Amity, yeah.
I was close! He moved from Amity to Oregon. Well known for shark attacks, I'm sure.
There were just things I just liked better about the original, outside that I laughed way more in the original. There's positive things I can say about the acting in this movie, but to me, Kurt Russell and Goldie Hawn carried that original movie way better than the two leads in this film. Also, I thought the original was just structured better than this film. This movie keeps having this subplot about Eugenio Derbez's sister trying to take over the company, and every time it kept cutting back to that, I just kept sinking in my seat. Like, it was just like a whole other movie kept interrupting this film. And yeah, in the original, it cut back to the husband every now and then, but it was never really a big plot that was going on. It was just sort of cutting back to him, and he's...
having fun.
Yeah, he's just living it up on the boat. And there's this subplot with Susie Kurtz as Anna Faris's mom, and the only reason I can think of that it's in this movie is that they maybe originally wanted Goldie Hawn for that part.
That's a point.
Because I mean, it doesn't cut back.
Makes a lot of jokes about her being old, though. So, like, if I was Goldie Hawn, I would have turned it down just on that. It's like, fuck you.
Sorry,
She's pursuing like an acting career in her twilight years. I think she mentioned she's 73, and so she's in like she's like joined like a senior touring company, and it comes to pass that she's playing one of the little maids from the Mikado.
Yeah.
And then we actually saw a production in Springfield where the little maids were definitely not of school age. But and then like later it turns out she's playing like the next play they're doing, she's playing Hodel in Fiddler on the Roof, which is a joke you're only gonna get if you're familiar enough with Fiddler on the Roof to know that she's like the young daughter.
Oh man, like this movie is almost 2 hours long, and so much of that stuff could have been just cut out of the movie. Like this could have been just so much fucking shorter. Like you could see where things could easily be cut out of this film. Mm-hmm. Like the Swoozie Kurtz stuff, a lot of the stuff with the sister. This was also, it was annoying because it was kind of a wasted opportunity because I'm not saying Overboard's above having a remake, but you could do something interesting with it. You could really play with the plot line that it has. You could do some clever things with it. Like, I don't know, like you could make it a darker comedy, or you could make it somewhat satirical. You could have some kind of fun with the plot of the original Overboard. And this movie doesn't do any of that. It just does the same movie again. Only you're seeing scenes play out exactly like they play out in the other one. But, I mean, yeah, we just watched the original a few days ago, but it's just not done as well, really. Like, it was just one of those cases where I was just reminded how much better the lines were being delivered and how much the actors were really, really carrying it in the original film. And that's not to say that I didn't enjoy some of the performances in this, because I actually like Eugenio Derbez quite a bit in this film. Mm-hmm. But his plot line in the movie, for a guy who's wealthy, something happens to him, he's now broke. If I want to see that Eugenio Derbez movie, I'll watch How to Be a Latin Lover again, because quite a few times in this movie, not that I thought that was a great movie, I thought it was okay, I thought it was better than this film. I was like, okay, I liked that Eugenio Derbez movie a lot better than I liked this film. I
tend to disagree with you when you say that they didn't change a lot, and maybe it's just, again, because there were things about the original that really bothered me, and so, like, the stuff they did to kind of fix it jumped out at me. I don't think reversing the genders made it intrinsically less disturbing, but there were other things they did to kind of try to address that. Mm-hmm. Like the subplot with like the sisters and the dad. You're right, it did kind of like slow the movie down, but I like that by making him not already married, they kind of reduced, like, they got rid of that whole sort of delightful cuckolding aspect of the first movie. Mm-hmm. And you know, she was definitely nicer to him in this than Kurt Russell was in the original, to Goldie Hawn, and so I liked that. She did first of like it when he gave Goldie Hawn's entire speech, when he realized that he was rich and she had tricked him and used him, she said, "I'm sorry and thank you." And in the original, Kurt Russell just said thank you. Yeah. And then later when she's talking to her kids and they're like, you know, oh, we miss him, and she says, "We can't go ask for him back. He didn't belong to us. We basically kidnapped him." And then at the end, when they jump into the ocean and they're swimming towards each other, and it's like, in the original, just it seems like forced, and like they're looking at their watch, like, okay, it's time for the movie to be over. They kiss in the water, and that's it. He realizes that he's choosing between love and money, and has like a moment like, well, but all of the money though, and then like bits like that. That particular bit, I think, was more an example of Eugenio Derbez's hand in the comedy aspect of this movie. Because stuff like, there's the wheelbarrow scene that was in the preview, where he eventually falls in. That was very Eugenio Derbez-y. Sure. The whole, like, bartering back and forth in the middle of the ocean, that was very him. Yeah. just different stuff like that. But I liked him more in this than I did in How to Be a Latin Lover, because I think in How to Be a Latin Lover, that was all it was, whereas in this, he had a little bit, I think, more like human moments and chance to stretch his acting chops. And I'll be honest, he was a lot sexier in this than How to Be a
He's a
Latin Lover.
good-looking dude.
He was pretty goddamn sexy in this movie. And like, he was kind of like, there were scenes that he was dragging it along by like the teeth, just by sheer dint of how charismatic he was being. But I don't know, I was kind of into it.
No, I mean, I do like him in the movie. I liked Latin Lover better, but yeah, they do things in this movie, like she actually does apologize to him, and yeah, they get rid of the shitty ex-husband thing.
Oh, and the sex. I don't mean to interrupt you, but I have to remember, because that was a big thing for me. Was that he was the kind of, I don't want to say the aggressor in the sexual relationship, but like when they first got into the house and like they had this moment, and it was very obvious. They're like, okay, let's set the scene right here for these two are eventually gonna have sex, where he's like, I would enjoy to have sex with you, and she's like, you don't have your memory. As far as you're concerned, I'm a stranger, but you'd still like to have sex with me? He's like, yes, I definitely would.
Those parts where he's standing in the doorway like that were a couple of the chuckles I had in this movie. Like, yeah, not really laugh out loud, but I got a few chuckles out of that. But like, everything about her, like, yeah, when they do throw in the I'm sorry line in there, and all that, sure, like, it does that in this where it's just kind of adding a line into the scene, but none of that. At the end of the day, it's still a comedy, and I laughed way more in the original movie.
See, and this I felt a little more heart touched, I think, that, because like I didn't buy them as a couple as much as I bought Kurt Russell and Goldie Hawn.
I agree with that.
I had the context of them having been in a relationship ever since that movie. But also, shit, I lost my original point. But I bought, I think, their feelings for each other more, and those little girls, I think, were much better actors than the little boys were in the original. So, like, in the original, when the boys are running after the limo, it just kind of feels like three little boys taking off after a car, like, you said that mothers never leave! Whatever. But the little girls are just, like, screaming, Daddy, Daddy! And the one, like, gets on her bike that he had taught her how to ride and just, like, takes off after the limo, and I had, like, a tear.
I like that better in the original, because I thought the original was a better made movie than this, and I thought the boys in the original movie, I got a few more laughs out of them in this. I liked their, like, I like the personalities a little more in the original, like the Pee Wee Herman kid and all of that.
Yeah, and I'm not arguing that point, and I do agree with you that the original was funnier. I just think this one had more of an emotional base, and that appealed to me.
And I did buy I did buy the romance more in the original movie, but that has and again, like, going back to like the sister thing, like, okay, that is a different way to do that as opposed to Eugenio Derbez is married in the movie. My problem with that is that there was just too much of that in this film. There was,
and that's I can agree with that.
Like that was really it wasn't so much an issue like of it was just too, it just kept cutting back to that too much for me. But this though, and I don't know how if you thought this way about this movie either, but there's a good portion of this movie where it really is just Eugenio Derbez's movie, as opposed to.
I was fine with that.
No,
Really
sure,
sexy.
he is good in this, like, but in the original, they were both kind of equal leads in that film. Like, there was a lot of Kurt Russell stuff and there was a lot of Goldie Hawn stuff, whereas in this, there's quite a bit of it where I'm like, okay, Anna Faris is there, but it feels like she's not. Like, it feels like she suddenly becomes a very, very minor supporting character in her own movie.
She did kind of feel like the weak point of this movie, and I don't know why it is. I mean, she's acted well in other stuff before, but she wasn't really selling it. And I think she wasn't. I don't want to say she wasn't as attractive as she normally is, but they were doing some kind of unflattering things with her styling. I don't know if it was to make her look poorer, or if it was to, like, they had her bangs just, like, flat front and blunt.
I liked her bangs.
I think they were trying to Goldie Hawn her up, is what was happening.
No, totally.
It just wasn't doing it for me.
When she goes to pick him up in the hospital, she's wearing, like, that kind of denim jacket and everything that like Goldie Hawn was seen in later scenes in Overboard.
Yeah.
So yeah, it looked like they were kind of trying to make her look a little like Goldie Hawn. But it seemed like Eugenio Derbez was really wanting to be in this movie. It seems like he was having a good time in the film.
He was a producer, right?
Yeah, he's credited as a producer on the film, whereas Anna Faris did feel like she was really sleepwalking through this movie.
Yeah.
And there's so much of it where it's just sequence after sequence of Eugenio Derbez's character, and Anna Faris is just kind of there. Either she's just studying for this medical exam she's taking, or doing some other things. Like it felt like there wasn't much of a character there on her end. Whereas in the original, whether someone likes the Kurt Russell character or not, it is a character. Like it is, you get a feeling of this guy 5 minutes into the film.
Boy, you sure do.
You really do. But in this, there really wasn't much of that, like at all. And I wasn't. This movie really just kind of exhausted me. And when it got to the I wasn't sitting there mad really necessarily. This was just one of those situations where I'm just like, I'm just not having any of this. Like, I'm not mad, but I just don't want to be here. And when it got to the ending, though, when they're swimming together, there was a moment where I thought, that's another thing, too. It kind of also gives it Arthur's ending as well. But, like, there was a moment in the ending when they're swimming towards each other where I thought the movie was going to go in a wildly different direction.
Like, he changed his mind, like, all the money? Okay, fuck this shit.
You know what? If it did that, I still wouldn't have liked this movie, but I would have given it more props than I'm giving it right now. I would be like, well, okay, like, I wasn't expecting that turn.
There was some stuff, I feel like they might have changed some things from the original draft of this. Did you notice that, like, a bunch of Anna Faris's friend characters had setups where you could see them suddenly becoming rich at any moment?
Oh, the guy who was the musician.
The guy that was a musician who's like, someday I'm going to have all this, and when I do, you can stay with me. And then the guy who had the lottery numbers that he played, and they very specifically, the lottery numbers are 21, 12, 45.
That's right. Yeah, I was thinking about that in this movie.
So I wonder if maybe originally, they were going to, like, come into money and then give Anna Faris some, and she was going to be the rich one. I don't know. It was strange to me. Maybe they were just red herrings.
Why does this movie need red herrings?
You never know when you're going to need a red herring.
Oh, man.
To keep Brad's interest. They're like, whoa, maybe Don Corleone is going to make some money.
No, he's going to play those numbers, and the same thing will happen to him that happened to Hurley on Lost.
That'd be a very strange ending to the Overboard remake. But, like, I was glad that I watched the original before we went and saw this, because there was so much stuff that I wouldn't have caught. Like, full scenes that were just not shot by shot. I have no idea if they were shot by shot, because I don't notice that sort of thing. But, like, line for line,
there were
the same scene. Especially that I think that was a bad choice to give him Goldie Hawn's speech, because it didn't really fit with his character. And he was almost kind of doing like a Goldie Hawn impersonation while he was doing it, because like his voice kind of went higher and breathier.
It was probably hard not to, because they were line for line her lines. Like, I was just playing the scene in my head.
I'm gonna go inside and get my things.
Yeah.
None of these things are mine.
Yeah, it was like watching just a weird carbon copy of the other movie. And again, certainly not from beginning to end of the movie, it wasn't doing that, but like there are parts where, there's no subplot about a putt-putt course in this film.
I think probably for the best, because putt-putt's not going to make you any good money nowadays. It would be like, oh, thank God, our financial woes are over. We own a miniature golf course now. It
would have been great if, like, I don't know, when they went on a date or something in this, like, it was at that putt-putt course.
That would have been hilarious.
Like, I would have enjoyed that at least. I really didn't like this movie. Would you recommend this at all?
I recommend it more than the original, but I'm not sure that, again, the things I liked about this movie were just because they improved, to my eyes, the things that I didn't like about the first one.
Sure.
And so, like, if there's a person out there who is like, man, I really enjoyed the plot of Overboard, but not the things about it that haven't aged well. I'd be like, well, then I have a film for you, except
I
don't mind if you don't laugh as much. And they'll be like, that's a weird recommendation.
I actually agree with you there, like, because and I'm just tired. I don't mean that as in like, I don't mean that as like, wow. I actually
Well, no, I'm
like,
glad you. No, I find to phrase it that way because it was kind of rambling, but I feel like I got my point across.
No, like, no, you did, like, because I agree with that. Overall, I would so recommend the original movie over this, like, as a comedy, just to laugh, like, and even just for Kurt Russell and Goldie Hawn alone, I recommend the original movie over this film. But like you said, but if you're gonna have huge problems with the plot of the original movie, which I get, if you're gonna have big problems with that, you probably won't have as much of that here. But it's still not a good movie. So I would honestly, if I'm talking to somebody like that, like, okay, let's say you haven't seen the original and you haven't seen this film. Mm-hmm. I would just say, don't watch either.
That's a fair point. Again, I cannot recommend the original. It did have some funny parts, but again, parts of it have just aged too poorly for my taste.
Sure.
Then there are funnier, better aged old movies that I can recommend to people in its stead. Mm-hmm. I don't know, unless, okay, if you have the hots for Eugenio Derbez and you didn't like how little smolder he had and how to be a Latin lover, then perhaps I can recommend to you Overboard, starring him and kinda Anna Faris.
Kinda Anna Faris. I like that.
She was there, you know.
She's technically there.
She helped, God bless her.
Yeah.
But I think the one thing that this movie did have in common is that I ended up liking the little side characters better than the original, better than the main characters, because they had some, like, those were the funniest parts for me, and I'm hard pressed to think of any specific examples, but when they'd cut to, like, the guy in the kitchen just super into his soap operas, or like, the Scottish butler was freaking adorable every time he showed up.
Yeah, he was alright. I liked, as far as, like, the side characters go, I like, I forget the guy's name, Mr. Traeger from, the first movie. I liked him better than I liked, like, his equivalence in this, which is kind of between, Eva Longoria and her husband in this film, because Eva Longoria was kind of just, again, sort of a nothing character in this, like, just
I did like Mr. Traeger better than those two.
Yeah, like, I so did, like, because
I did like that it wasn't his panties this time. It was just a long row of condoms.
Annie, that's my underwear. I like him a lot in that. I like that actor. Yeah, Eva Longoria was just kind of like rom-com best friend in this movie, where she's
girl,
really
you
just
better go get him.
Yeah, like, okay. No, there's no point in seeing this movie. There's not. If you're fine with the plot of Overboard, just watch the original film, or again, the Korean remake. I don't know, I'll have to go look on IMDb again, but, like, yeah, it's been remade a couple of times, and people were pointing this out in the comments for the 87 version, where I guess it's got some similarities to Taming of the Shrew, which is a Shakespeare one I'm not as well versed on.
I guess kinda, because in Taming of the Shrew, the whole idea was that the only similarity I could see between this and Taming of the Shrew is that he was just super mean and she eventually was into it. Because in Taming of the Shrew, she was like the meanest, and he's like, I will tame that shrew so that her younger sister can marry this guy who's paying me to tame the shrew. And it didn't really have any of that in it. You want Taming of the Shrew, you watch 10 Things I Hate About You, because talk about a smolder.
Yeah. I did still like this movie better than Swept Away, the Madonna one. I did still like this.
I'm wanting to watch
Swept
Away less and less.
I don't think you'll like it. I don't even know how much you'd like the original Swept Away, but you'd probably like it better than the Madonna one. There's like one decent part in the Madonna one where it's like the only Guy Ritchie moment in it where there's this fantasy sequence where she's like a singer in like a 30s nightclub. And if you want to see that, I'm pretty sure it's in the trailer. It's like the only decent part of that movie.
Let's watch the trailer then.
Yeah.
Speaking of trailers, we got Book Club again.
I knew we were going to get that, and sure enough, it was the first trailer. I knew we were going to get Book Club and one of the other trailers that we got.
I'm kind of looking forward to Book Club more
I am
and more.
too.
It's just these old ladies getting sex. It's just kind of delightful to me.
I can already tell that Candice Bergen is going to be the Dorothy of this group.
Of course she is. She's got like the full Dorothy kit on.
Yeah.
But I like a raunchy comedy, and I like that there's there's not like an age cutoff.
Yeah.
So like there's kind of like the jokes about like, oh, Viagra because they're old. She's just wearing her outfit from Annie Hall with a trench coat over it because old.
That reminds me of that gag from Parenthood, where it was also with Mary Steenburgen. Have you seen Parenthood?
Yeah, but it's been a while.
Remember the part where she's giving Steve Martin Roadhead?
Yeah!
And he's like, I don't know, I think this is dangerous. And then cut, and they've been pulled over. And the cop is like, all right, so what's going on here? And Steve Martin just pauses and just goes, show him, honey.
The one part I remember from that movie is they're like, the whole family's in the house and the power goes out and the one guy goes to look for a flashlight and it turns on, he's like, click, bzzz, what the heck? And the lights come back on and he's just like, ha ha ha, because it's a vibrator.
Yeah.
She's keeping it in her drawer in the kitchen for some reason.
And like it's an electric ear cleaner. The kid's like, it was really big, and Grandma's like, it sure was. I love that fucking movie. No, I am looking forward to Book Club.
Yeah. Hotel Transylvania 3.
This was a new trailer for
I'm very
it.
surprised this movie hasn't come out yet.
We got a trailer for that in front of Jumanji several times.
Yeah,
and
I
that was
know
December?
more about the plot from watching this trailer once than I did from watching the one ahead of Jumanji 3 times, because that one was just like, we're on a boat and here's some zany things that are happening. This one he's like, I'm looking for love, and then they went on the boat and they met a lady and she's super sexy and he's into it, but it turns out she's the daughter of Van Helsing.
Yeah.
And she's like actively trying to murder him. And this trailer made me want to watch it a lot more than the first trailer did.
I agree with you. With this trailer, I'm like, actually, this does look like it might be kind of cute.
Yeah.
And I haven't seen the first two.
Nor
So,
I. You think we'll be lost?
I wasn't lost when I saw Despicable Me 3.
It keeps coming up in my Netflix queue, and it's like, should I watch that
You
instead of
shouldn't.
watching Moana for the 50th time? Daughter?
You shouldn't watch Despicable Me 3.
That's okay, we watched Moana again. I have
Right
no
on.
control over my own clicker. Mamma Mia 2, Here We Go Again.
That was the other trailer I knew we were going to get in front of this movie.
This is just the same trailer again.
Yeah, same trailer again. Which I don't see them switching up this trailer anytime soon. This might be the only one we get for this film.
Have you seen the first one? I can't
No.
remember. We should probably watch the first one before we see the second one.
I'm down. Yeah, I'm down for doing that.
We'll do it. Ant-Man and the Wasp.
That was the first trailer for it. It wasn't the
Looks
new
good.
trailer. Yeah, no, it looks really fun, but it wasn't the new trailer that was just put out, which again looks like it'll be a lot of fun. Yeah, no, I'm looking forward to that.
And they'll probably be in the boys, but I'm bound and determined to see this one in theaters this
Oh
time.
yeah.
The Darkest Minds.
Turns out is based on a book series.
Yeah, so I'm gonna have to read them.
Yeah, they were on sale over at Walmart a couple of weeks ago.
Okay. If you see it again, pick it up for me and I'll pay you back.
God, I could care less about that movie. Oh,
Yeah, I like superpowered youngins saving the world, so if it's good, then I'll watch it. I mean, if it's bad, I'll still watch it. But
right. That's my
it's good,
motto
I'll
too.
enjoy watching it. I'll watch it more intensely if I enjoy it. Crazy Rich Asians,
That's now that's a title.
which it's also based on a book. It looked like. I don't know if that's what's her name, Amy Wong, the lady who wrote Joy Luck Club.
Oh,
like
is
they,
it?
They kept doing like this kind of green pattern background for the text scroll, and it looked, I think, like the pattern background that tends to be on her books. But I could just be having a false positive.
I don't know. Like the movie didn't look it's got a funny title, but like it didn't look. Is the book maybe more interesting? Because the movie just looked
like a romantic comedy, but just all Asian people.
Yeah, like she is engaged to a guy and he turns out to be rich, and there's
just be like super rich.
Yeah, and then it's got like a whole monster-in-law thing going on. Yeah, I don't know. It's a funny time. I want to go see it just so I can go up and say 2 for crazy rich Asians.
I'll find out if I know it's based on a book, but I'll find out more about the book by the time we get that preview again. Uncle Drew.
That was a different trailer for that one too.
Yeah, that one kind of explained a little more about what we're dealing with, but it still doesn't look like my kind of movie because I don't generally speaking, like sports movies.
I do like Tiffany Haddish.
That looked like she was in it much.
Yeah, on that ending thing, it does say "and Tiffany Haddish."
And introducing Tiffany Haddish.
That movie looks so. It's like, well, I guess if I'm in the mood for like a bad '90s throwback movie, I guess that'll fit the bill.
Again, I'm all for a bad '90s throwback movie. It's just I don't care about sports, so it's like, win all of the basketballs.
They tried making this trailer look way more, like, intense than the other trailer. I'm like, I don't think you're fooling me, movie.
I still don't care if you win the basketballs. And then The Spy Who Dumped Me.
That looked like shit.
Let's talk about The Spy Who Dumped Me, because I do like Kate McKinnon, and I do like Mila Kunis. But I know from previous experience, they're not necessarily 100% at picking good movies. And so... it'll probably be me at that one because it's like the girl one movie. But I don't foresee liking it. Which was Heat? Is that the one?
Oh yeah, you like that one, didn't you?
Yeah, that one was okay, but that one
Melissa McCarthy.
That one was a little more well written than this one looks. Because this one opens with the women can't drive joke, and I'm like. Well, it was one of those moments where it's like they jump in the car to make the speedy getaway, but it turns out it's a stick shift, and neither of them can drive stick, so they're just like meh, 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 down the street. And I'm like, hey, well, I can't drive stick though.
Neither can I. I've tried once and made it 5 feet. I can't even do stick shift on, Cruisin' Exotica in there.
David tried to teach me one time in the parking lot of the bingo parlor here in town, so I can drive stick in first. At least I could 3 years ago.
Yeah.
But I haven't really had a chance to practice since then around other cars, and so I don't think it's something that I plan on prioritizing learning.
Yeah, why do I need that?
Yeah,
I don't need that.
Just drive an automatic car. It's like learning how to wash clothes on a washboard. Sure, it's interesting, historically speaking.
Yes, but at least with that, you can also make a musical instrument out of it.
Every once in a while, I learn a skill just because, I'm generally speaking an optimistic person. But then I think in the back of my head, well, come the apocalypse, I might need this. And so, I learned how to DM Dungeons and Dragons because come the apocalypse, the warlords are going to need entertainment, and I figure I can sell them on Dungeons and Dragons if I need to. And
I've not bothered to learn any of that because I'm going to die anyway.
Yeah,
5 minutes after the apocalypse.
See, well, I married Dave though, and he's a survivalist.
That's true.
To some extent, and so I figure stick with us, and we'll at least build you a fire, and maybe give you some of the rats that he manages to kill.
Yeah. That's true. I'm just I'll hightail it over to you guys' place when the apocalypse happens.
But he's been playing Fallout 4, but since the baby's around, he tries to avoid doing the violent parts when she's in the living room. And so there's parts where you get you make a hideout. So just spending hours just building these dull gray warehouses with rows and rows of irradiated fruit. No. And so I feel come the apocalypse, he'll be really good at building us a giant gray warehouse with rows and rows of irradiated fruit.
Now I'm
all the best fences to pick.
Yeah. I'm now also picturing Dave playing Grand Theft Auto, but Sophie's there, so
he's just all the rules of the road.
No, he just goes.
Sonny.
He just goes to the bowling alley.
Doesn't the bowling alley have strippers in it? The strippers are not as big of a problem as the shooting people in the face, but it's hard to avoid the strippers in that game.
He plays Red Dead Redemption and just plays liar's dice for a couple hours. The hand knife game. He's like, I haven't beaten this game, but I kick ass at the bowling part.
Come the apocalypse, we'll need to know how to bowl, because that's good analog entertainment right there.
Yeah.
The warlords would be like, oh man, I want to bowl with you guys. Like, man, I won't shoot you and rape you and then shoot you again.
I gotta write this movie. Was that all of them?
Yeah.
What was this? Oh, Spy Who Dumped Me was the last one. Yeah.
Maybe it'll surprise us. You never know.
It could.
Come the apocalypse, and we're all sitting around the campfire trying to think of stories to tell each other. I'll be like, I'll tell you the story of when Kate McKinnon and Mila Kunis had to go on an adventure because Mila Kunis was dating a spy. And so then the bad guys were chasing her.
Run out of stories to tell, and just like,
Tell
remember when we went
C-3PO
to...
style.
Remember, yeah.
Choo choo choo!
Remember when we went to go see Spy Who Dumped Me, and it was alright. Yeah, he's
Good
sound
times,
effects.
good times.
Sound effects and Return of the that he's making. Oh yeah, I love that part. All right, I'm probably gonna try to see Tully sometime during the week because that's also out. And
My brain went, Scully? No.
the Scully spin-off movie. No, Tully, the one with Charlize Theron, where she gets a night maid.
Oh right.
That's playing
Yeah, that
over
one
at
looked
Parkway
depressing.
right now. I hear that one's really good. But yeah, that's also playing, and I don't know what comes out next week. Is it Deadpool? Deadpool's sometime this month, but maybe that's not next week. Solo is also out this month. I don't know. Maybe there'll be some like Bad Samaritan. Maybe there'll be some other movie I've never even heard of before and went to go see it.
Well, we're coming into like the heavy hitters, the heavy hitters season. So
something will be out next.
we'll get to see some good ones and some bad ones.
Oh hell yeah!
Bye guys.